updates as to some of the recent occurrences at SKELEC. As you would have been aware, about 2 weeks ago, we implemented a load shedding exercise. We want to provide an update to the public on that. To date, we have not had any load shedding outages for at least, so it was about 3 weeks ago we started the exercise, and we haven't had any outages for about 2 weeks now. So we're going to provide an update on that. We're also going to talk about the efforts that SKELEC engaged in for Tropical Storm Fiona and our restoration efforts. So, Mr. Williams, it's a mouthful today, but how are you doing?
Good morning, everyone. I'm doing well, Miss Harris. And to the listeners and viewers on the different media, good morning to you as well.
All right, Mr. Williams. So the last time we were here, it was a very short show when we spoke about what led us to load shedding and some of the initiatives that we were participating in.
Correct.
We would have done several media appearances. We would have done many radio shows and different interviews with different media houses. About 2 weeks ago, we announced that we don't expect to have any more load shedding outages, but that the entire exercise is not complete as yet. So let's explain to the public exactly what that means and what the update is.
Okay, so there are 9 generators installed at the power station, 9 fixed generators. Labeled G1 to G14. There's a few missing, so don't get confused by the numbers. And then we have now 7 installed mobile containerized units. That's containers C to 7. So as Ms. Harris mentioned, there was a failure which led us to have to go into this load shedding exercise a few weeks ago, and we were able to do repairs on a couple of the fixed generators and also a couple of the containerized generators, which gave us enough capacity to sustain the demand at the time. Now, why we say we're not out of the woods is we have 2 generators that are down with alternators needing repair. One of them, we have a factory test in France coming up, so that we can get this unit back online by January. The other one, we have to ship the alternator either to Miami or England for repair, and that is going to take an additional 2 to 3 months as well. Once these 2 alternators are repaired, that will bring back 8 of the installed 9 generators. We currently have G9, which is ongoing with an ongoing scheduled overhaul, and once that is complete, we will have an additional capacity. So the purchase of the 2 Caterpillar generators that we did 2 weeks ago was just to stop load shedding, basically. It doesn't get us out of the woods because we still have another scheduled maintenance on one of the larger units scheduled for November. Once all these maintenance issues are done, then the power station will be back to full capacity of over 40 megawatts available, but it's gonna take some time. The alternator in France, we have to go to the test, then it has to ship the same kits, then it has to be installed, and you know these things weigh tons. So we're gonna require a special team to come in and lift the alternator, put it in place. Then we have to get the technicians come in, make sure everything is aligned, and once all that is done, we put the unit online. So we're expecting that unit G1 to be back online by January. G4, which was the reason for the load shedding, that alternator has to be shipped overseas, as I said, to either Miami or the UK for repairs, and then once that is complete, then it comes back to St. Kitts, and we're hoping that will be around January, February. So both G1 and G4 we expect to be around the same time. G9 undergoing overhaul right now. We had to do some additional orders for parts. Lead time on that is a bit longer than we anticipated. So we're hoping by November for G9, and then once G9 is back in service, then we take G3 out of service for its scheduled maintenance. So we have a lot of work going on behind the scenes, but in the meantime, we are able to carry the demand of the country with what is available to us now. You realize how much generators, I said, are down for maintenance and repairs. It's too much. We usually don't like to have more than one unit out at a time, and we have 3 units out right now. So we need to get 2 of those units back up, G1 and G4, G1, G4 and G9, so that we can take out G3 for maintenance.
Now, based on the time frames that you would have given for at least 2 of the major units, are we looking at about March to have the plant back up at full capacity, 40 megawatts?
Correct. We're looking at March 2023 as a very safe estimate to have all the units at the power plant back up and running. Because once G3 goes into overhaul, that usually takes about 6 weeks for a complete overhaul. We already ordered all the parts. Lead times again is something that has been hampering us and has
by
been
lead times you mean shipping how long it takes to get
how long it takes an item to get to you once you order it. There are a lot of delays all over the world, and St. Kitts, like everyone else, is experiencing a lot of these difficulties.
Okay. Now, one of the concerns that persons had over the weekend as we had the strike of Tropical Storm Fiona was if we were going to be placed in a far worse situation as it relates to capacity. I know persons were worried, and even at the NEOC briefing, Mr. Brown, our control and operations manager, was asked about that. Now, I would like to think that SKELEC did well this weekend.
We did very well.
I want you to comment on what do you think contributed to SKELEC having done well, and what do we mean by SKELEC having done well, because persons were indeed out of power, so they might not consider that we did well.
Yes. I recently had a meeting with the SKELEC Board of Directors this past Sunday, and a lot of the fellow CEOs in the neighboring islands had very similar experiences to us. So St. Kitts, just like everybody else, had our fair set of challenges by the passage of Fiona. Like everyone else, we had some outages which lasted, I think the longest outage we had was about 24 hours. And that was mainly because of the terrain that the crew had to traverse in order to make the repairs on the system. Our vegetation management, I have to say kudos to the team.
When we say vegetation management,
that's tree cutting.
Good.
Basically tree cutting.
Yes.
Pruning trees, cutting shrubs, clearing vines off the line. There's a team dedicated just to that, and they did an awesome job ahead of the storm, and we were able to, in the areas where we typically would have outages, there were none. And in the areas that normally would stay on, there were some outages, which shows that there is some need for maintenance in those areas, and it takes money to do this. And we just want the public to understand it's a balancing act. We have a lot of work to do in the power station. We also have a lot of work to do in transmission and distribution. but our purse is only so deep. So it will take some time. We're asking you to be patient. We're asking you to be vigilant. If you realize you have a rotten pole outside your house, call in, report it. If you realize there are vines on the wires, call and report it. Those numbers to call are 465-2013-600 from a cell phone, or 465-2000, which is the main office.
Okay, so Mr. One of the things I want the public to understand as well is that SKELEC is a member of the NEOC, of the National
Correct.
Emergency Operations Center.
Correct.
So whenever there is a strike impending, we do have to, our representative of SKELEC does have to go to the NEOC to batten down. You know, when that door pulls in, you can't leave.
You can't leave.
And so I want us to try to help the public to understand the restoration process. Now, I started by saying that we are a member of the NEOC because the NEOC has to give the all clear.
Correct.
In order for SKELEC to be able to go out and begin its scouting and restoration process.
And one of the things I must note, there are two all clears. There's the all clear for the service providers to go out and scout. What most people do is when they see us out scouting, they think it's the all clear for them. That's not the general all clear. So as Miss Harris mentioned, both her and myself had to be in the New York Center from pre-strike all the way down through the storm until after, and we cannot leave until the all clear is given. So we are coordinating all the efforts with the other service providers and government agencies in the New York as well. We do our duties from inside the center. We have a hurricane coordinator on SKELEC staff who then is in control of the restoration effort outside of New York, and we are in communication, constant communication before the storm, during the storm, after the storm, to coordinate all efforts. We did well. In my opinion, we did well for this storm. It was not a severe storm, and it showed us where the weaknesses in the system are and the areas that we have to focus on. And as I said, I was in a meeting with the other CEOs within the region on Sunday, and everyone had the same experience. We did not have a total shutdown of the system, as well as some of the other utilities did, and we were able to restore every customer within, I would say, every large area within a period of 24 hours. There might be 1 or 2 outliers.
There were a lot of small individual
outages which would have maybe gone through the cracks because persons don't call in to report that they don't have any electricity. And as we speak right now, I am very confident that everyone who was on before the storm is back on right now.
We want the public to understand that the restoration of power sometimes is a very, well, not sometimes, it's a physical task.
It is a physical
which means
task.
that our crews have to be out into the field, replanting poles that would have fallen down, be climbing up or in a bucket truck heading up to get the lines back up. There is a lot of physical effort, and it's not that we have really, really huge skilled teams and tens of bucket trucks and so forth that we can use.
You know, and that's very interesting because on the call on Sunday was a representative from Puerto Rico. And when she started to talk about they have these hundreds of crews and these thousands of vehicles, they had helicopters. I was like, oh my goodness, look at that. But compare Puerto Rico's size to us. They do have what we do consider the real high voltage in the hundreds of thousands of volts. We're just 11,000 volts. So that's why they need the helicopter to traverse those high voltage lines. And in comparison, I think our systems are a lot easier to manage than those larger systems, and we did very well in the restoration process.
The
And
helicopter sounds pretty cool, bro.
it sounds pretty cool. It sounds pretty cool, and I just want to say thanks to the teams at SKELEC, all the way down to the janitors who clean sweep the floor, because without you, we could not provide the service that we do.
All right, so hopefully we'll be able to take some calls in the last couple of minutes for the show. So if you do have any burning questions, if there are topics or any grievances that you want to share with us, we take this opportunity to ask you to call in. We are going to take those calls further towards the end of the show. But this show is designed to explain to the public all of the occurrences at SKELEC. And our two latest occurrences have been the load management exercise that we would have undertaken a few weeks ago, and to speak about Tropical Storm Fiona, the strike, and our restoration. We want to explain to the public that, recognizing that we are a utility company, we do have a very stringent disaster preparation plan and efforts that we participate in. So very early in the year, we start to sit down and make our necessary updates, and that is because there are different types of emergencies that can emerge that can be catastrophic if we don't manage them in the best way that we possibly can. And so our next show actually is going to feature our safety and security manager, who plays a critical role in our disaster preparation at SKELEC. And remember, disaster is not only limited to storms, but it could include fires, flooding, any other severe weather disturbance that we could have. And there are also some other disturbances that are not weather related that can be a disaster. So rest assured that when your power goes during a storm, it is not because we are not doing what we need to do in order to ensure that the system stays up. It's not because we don't have the personnel or we didn't have the foresight to plan for when a disaster does occur. But as Mr. Williams would have mentioned, it's very limited resources, human, financial, and otherwise. And as we always said to you, we too are consumers, which means that when we do pack our Georgie bundle on that Saturday morning after the storm, it means sometimes that we're leaving a house that might not have had power, might have been damaged, or anything along those lines. So we empathize with our customers.
Yes, we do.
Any response to that, Mr. Williams? We have callers. All right. We're going to start taking our callers. Good morning, caller. You're live.
Good morning, Miss Harris.
Good morning.
And good morning, Mr. Williams.
Good morning.
I believe you're doing a wonderful job of the manager of SKELEC, and I want to commend you and your team. I believe in the shows we had last week there, I believe that the workers them do well. Because when I hear current and current come back in the meet at this time, I said these guys is really working if they're going to pump post in the meet at this time. So with the problem we got at SKELEC with the generators them, I think we should only pray that you all can get you, because this is our country and we wouldn't like to see electricity decline no more hot than how it be. Because we are a poor people, ordinary people, and we work hard. And I believe that SKELEC, the workers them, especially those who are on the field, they will work real hard. Because I see them all up in the mountain. So for me again, I just want to commend you and your team. I believe you are doing a wonderful job. And Ms. Harris,
Yes.
you continue to come update the people and the SKELEC, because I believe you're doing a great job too. All right then.
All right. Thank you for calling.
Thank you very much. We have another call, GQ?
Okay.
Okay, so thank you, caller, for that commendation, and we really appreciate it. Prior to the storm, the teams were actually out working, and it was NEMA who had to stop them from doing the job and tell them to shelter because the storm was approaching. So there You have a call?
All right, let's take that call. Good morning, caller.
Yes, good morning. There are two light poles in Downing Street, Sandy Point. Need light bulbs.
All right, thank you for letting us know.
Okay.
Okay, Mr. Williams, continue.
Okay, so as I was saying, Nemo was the one who actually stopped the teams from working and to get them to shelter because they were doing restoration all before the storm was coming. And then once the storm had passed and we had gotten the all clear as a utility to do our scouting, then the teams came out in full effect, did their assessments, and started the restoration process.
All right, and I know that the caller mentioned. Do we have a caller on ear not as yet? I know that the caller mentioned about seeing. We do have a caller. All right. Good morning, caller. You're live.
Yeah, Mr. Williams.
Good morning.
Good morning, you and the lady. What is it in Basque here? We got so much of light in places where light should be. Oh, bulb thing. You need a thing, Jomo. This is Jam down here talking, you know.
Yes, Jamdong, I
The
recognize the
grandfather's
voice.
son.
I recognize the voice.
You need a team, Jomo, because some of these areas, for instance, around the port, some of the areas, there is areas that people could damage people. And you got visitors, come down to the food court for lunch. And it's terrible. Around the circus, it's terrible. It's where we're getting from a lot of we young boys then. It's terrible. You can't get no hatch for birds to play at night and harass people. Have a good day, Jomo.
All right, thank you. I think we do have a few more callers, so we'll take them and take note and respond accordingly. Good morning, caller. You're live.
Oh, I'm calling long distance from New York City. That was my brother on the phone, John Down, which is his oldest brother.
Okay.
I have a question. I was raised up in the Westbourne Gut, where the powerhouse used to be next to the ice plant.
Uh-huh.
Did we all build a power station?
If we did what? Can you repeat your question, caller?
I said I grew up in Westbourne Gut, right next to the old power station by the ice plant.
Yes.
Yes.
Did we all build a new power plant?
If we built a new power plant.
Yes, the power plant was located from in Bastion, in the Central Street area right there by Westbourne Gut, and it is
Right
now
there.
at Needsmus,
By the old sugar
by
factory.
the old, right next to the old sugar factory.
Okay, well, let me ask, my question is this. When you all build a new power plant, did you estimate that thing because we'll be growing bigger and demand more power?
Yes, that has been taken into consideration. There have been significant addition since the first installation at the Needsmus plant. We have had 2 extensions. We are now in station C. The first station was A, then they added B, and now we have station C. And if all goes well, there will be a station D in the upcoming year.
Well, the reason why I'm asking you this question is because when I was growing up in St. Kitts as a boy, we a lot of black house like you all have now. The brown house that you do section here, section there. Every once in a while we have a blackout. But for days that you all have now. So my question is this, is there any plans to make the power plant more efficient?
There have been significant improvements from the original power station down at Central Street to where it is now at Needsmus. The technologies that are involved for load balancing, load monitoring, frequency tracking, we have plans to improve those systems. Again, they're very costly, and there's only so much that we can do at the time. With all the changes and purchases that we have been doing in the meantime, there have been no change to the rate of electricity in the past however much years, and the prices for materials just keep going up. Just just this morning I got an email from one of my engineers letting me know that a meter base, the price has gone up some 10-15%. So persons now requiring the meter base would have to pay a little bit more for it, because that is just the cost of the materials. They're increasing and the tariff has not changed for some time. So there's only so much that we can do with the limited budget that we have.
I agree with you 100%. And my thoughts go to my fellow citizens of St. Vincent Nevis, and that's where I was born. And the guy just called it, that's my brother, John Brown. I'm his oldest brother in New York.
Okay.
Thanks for taking the call.
No problem.
Thank you for calling, caller. We do have one last call. No more calls. Okay. We're going to start to begin to wrap up the program. Mr. Williams, I'm not if you wanted to provide a response to Jam Down's question about the lights.
Yes. Security lighting is something that's very, well, we pay a lot of attention to it. That bill is actually taken care of by the government, and they have to make sure that they get bang for the buck that they pay. So we do have teams that go out at night and do the scouting. As you can imagine, I can't have 10 teams out in the night doing 10 areas. So it takes them a while to traverse the entire island and locate all the bad street lights. Also, we do have to import the street lights that we replace the bad ones with. And there are some logistics challenges and shipping challenges in terms of the lead time to get the lights. Then when we do order, we can't order a significant quantity based on whatever cash flow we have at the time. So it's a balancing act, and we're doing our very best to make sure that it's done. We work very closely with the security forces so that if there are areas that we identify that do need extra patrolling, we are keen to let the security forces know that we may be having difficulties in terms of receiving a shipment of light, and to do extra patrolling in the area. That is also why we require the citizens of St. Kitts to keep reporting outages, we keep reporting damaged street lights, keep reporting vegetation on the lines, keep reporting rotten poles, shaking poles. If you see somebody hit a pole and drive off, report it to us so that we can do an integrity test on the pole, make sure it's okay. We require every bit of information from the public in order to do our job to the best of our ability.
All right, Mr. Williams, thank you for being here on Power Talk with us. Hopefully it's not the last time for the year, and hopefully it's not always only to be a bad news, but to give updates and to speak about all of the fun things that are happening at SKELEC and the upgrades, the innovation, the technology that we are undertaking. As usual, to our callers, to our viewers, to our listeners, thank you for tuning in. You are an important part of everything that we do. You're the central and focal part of what we do at SKELEC. And despite all of the challenges that we have experienced in 2022, as I start to reflect on those as well, do remember that SKELEC is the nation's leading utility provider, and we wouldn't have it any other way. At the end of this show, we'll go straight into the CPL match that is taking place. So thank you for tuning in, and continue to enjoy the rest of your day.
I think it dropped in front of him, but certainly that was a well bowled delivery from Cottrell. And probably unlucky not to have gotten the wicket.
So the first over is being completed, 6 without loss. Cornwall is 1, and Mears yet to score. Dwan Janssen will pick up the attack from the far end of the National Stadium at Providence. Well, let's tell you, we see some school children coming in. And not a large crowd by any means as yet. This is not a game that involves a